What is happening, members of D12? It is your commissioner, and I'm here with another Week 13 preview. And I've got the privilege of talking about DDP versus Rio Grande Revolution. And this should be, according to Yahoo, this should be one of the closer matchups of the week. Yahoo has it pegged at 131.54 to 130.36. So according to Yahoo, I mean, I can flip a coin, and that's basically going to be what this game should be. But let's dig into the numbers a little bit more. So over here on the right-hand side, I have the Yahoo projections. And I know that I'm a huge fanboy of Yahoo projections. They've actually been pretty terrible this year. We probably say this every year, and maybe it's no different than what it's been in the past, but I think that they're quite far off on what is actually happening this year. So something else that I looked at, quickly looked up the last 4 weeks, how much each guy has averaged. The guys that show up in yellow are the difference between what Yahoo projects and what they've done over the past 4 weeks. Someone that originally did not show up over here on the best team as far as the past 4 weeks is concerned is Spencer Ware. He's actually been pretty terrible of recent weeks. Hasn't, and maybe this is a pretty lofty bar to hit, but he hasn't scored more than 12 points, or hasn't reached 12 points since week 7. So we're heading into week 13. Kansas City, they picked back up Niall Davis. Watched that awesome Denver-Kansas City game on Sunday night. Picked up Niall Davis again. They still have Charkandrick West, and none of those guys are really standing out and being the go-to guy. West isn't putting up the numbers. He is averaging, 10.77 points over the past 4 weeks. He'd be the running back one on the Tampa Bay Hurricanes, but I do not have playoff aspirations this year. The reason why Spencer got put back in there is because he is behind Ryan Matthews and Chris Ivory in points per game over the last 4, but both of those guys are probably not playing this week, so Bork is probably stuck playing Spencer Ware. I don't see him getting to his 15.63 projections. I think he's over-projected for this week, and the last 4 weeks are a pretty good indication of that. The guy that Bork currently has in, and Yahoo says that he should have him in, is Cameron Meredith. Meredith hasn't scored more than 12 points since week 6. So 6 straight weeks of less than 12 points. Matt Barkley is currently the quarterback in Chicago. He sucks. I think Meredith only caught 2 out of 9 targets last week. So it's not necessarily Meredith's fault, but doesn't have the quarterback that can get him the ball. I think he scored exactly 12 points last week, and that was his biggest game by far of the past few weeks. Because in 4 of his past 5 games, he's had 2 or fewer receptions, which is not going to get it done, not when you need to win to make the playoffs. Over on Chris's side, Yahoo says to play Tavon Austin and Kenneth Dixon. If we look over here, this is probably the pickup of the week. I think Yahoo has Gabriel way underprojected. He's averaging almost 20 points a game over the past 4. Atlanta is going up against Kansas City, which you might think, oh, Kansas City, good defense. And they got Marcus Peters, and they've got a good pass rush. But Kansas City has actually yielded the most points to wide receivers this year. Julio gets all the attention. I think Peters is going to play against Julio on Sunday, which is just going to open up the field for Gabriel. I see Gabriel to have a huge week again this week, and I would definitely start Gabriel over Tavon Austin because Austin has not had more than 4 catches or 45 yards since week 7. Again, that was last week that he had his 4 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. So he did have a decent week last week. But that's his only touchdown since week 7. And they have to go up against New England this week. Now, Rams could fall behind, which means that they have to throw. Tavon isn't really their pass-catching option. He's well behind Lance Kendricks and Kenny Britt in Los Angeles. I wouldn't play Austin. Now, obviously, Chris just picked up Gabriel today, so maybe he already anticipated making the switch, but I would definitely put in Gabriel over Tavon Austin. Martellus Bennett has averaged more points per game than Kenneth Dixon over the past 4 weeks, but I would still play Kenneth Dixon. He is the Ravens' new #1 running back. Terrence West, I did remember, has sucked this year. Buck Allen is nothing, and Kenneth Dixon has actually scored double-digit points 2 of the past 3 weeks. Between those two, and then 4 weeks ago, he had crappy games, which is why his average is less than Bennett's 8.4. Bennett could be a sneaky play if he plays, and if Gronk does not. But I would still play Dixon over Bennett. So with what Chris has set up right now, the only switch personally that I would consider making, well, that I would make, and again, maybe he's already planning on this, is I would take out Tavon and I would put in Gabriel. Bork's team, the only guy that you could potentially take out is Cameron Meredith. I don't know who you're going to put in. C.J. Fedorowicz, Lance Kendricks are really his only 2 options. Bork is hurt by the fact that Rashard Matthews is out this week on a bye. So between Rashard Matthews, Ryan Matthews, Chris Ivory, he is missing 3 guys that he could potentially play this week. So maybe it is Cameron Meredith. I don't know. I think I would play Lance Kendricks. Kendricks has been solid, but not spectacular over the past few weeks. Let's get into the matchups across the board. I'm going to focus on the last 4 weeks, just because I think they're a little bit better indication of what these guys have been doing rather than Yahoo's projections. Quarterbacks, after a slow start, Russell Wilson has kind of turned it around a little bit over the past few weeks. After a blazing start, Matt Ryan has fallen off just a little bit. Should be a good matchup between these two. Atlanta does get to play against Kansas City's porous defense. Despite what it says here, maybe I give a slight edge to Matt Ryan. Well, let's see who Seattle is going up against. So Seattle gets to go up against Carolina, which historically Carolina's had pretty solid defense. I think Kuechly, or however you say it, is still out. Carolina's giving up a lot of points to quarterbacks. And in fact, if you look on down the line, other than when he puts in Gabriel, not great matchups anywhere for Rio Grande this week. So Russell's got a pretty good matchup. Matt Ryan has a pretty good matchup as well, both top 10 matchups. So I'm going to call it a wash. For their wide receiver 1 slot, obviously I'm going to take Odell over Devontae Adams, but Devontae has shocked me ever since I traded him. I thought I was trading high. I thought I was selling high on him when I made that deal with Bork. I did not anticipate this potentially costing me a lottery pick by trading him Devontae Adams. But he's been a stud the past few weeks. He does have to go up against Houston. Houston is actually surprisingly good against wide receivers. In fact, Bork's top 2 guys don't have very good matchups. The 30th and 31st ranked wide receivers against them. So I'm gonna still take Odell OBJ does what we expect him to do. Already mentioned a little bit about Dez. Taylor Gabriel gets to go up against Kansas City. I've already talked about him. I'm going to take Gabriel over Dez Bryant this week. Golden Tate versus Cole Beasley. How much is Dez going to play this week? Oh, I didn't even notice until now that Dez is on, that the Dallas combo is here. Cole is just averaging just a few points less than Dez. So not a great matchup for either one of them. Maybe, yeah, I don't know. So Beasley versus Golden Tate. I'm going to give the edge to Golden here. Detroit is going up against New Orleans. And I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. If Detroit wants to win that game, they're going to have to keep pace with New Orleans. And we know that the Saints can put up points, so the Lions are going to have to put up points. Marvin Jones hasn't even been heard of in the past few weeks. We do have Theo Riddick down here as well, so Bork could definitely benefit from having a high-scoring game between the Saints and the Lions. For the running back ones, Lamar Miller, probably number 2 most disappointing running back of the year behind Todd Gurley. He's just not getting it done lately. Houston's offense is a mess. Brock Osweiler sucks. And so teams are able to stack the box a little bit against Lamar Miller. Started off the year hot, has really, really tailed off. Obviously, Chris has to play him. He doesn't have anyone on the bench that should even be considered here. So, yeah. Gore has been putting up solid numbers. Indianapolis, they get to go up against. They got the Monday. Why am I on Pacific time? They got the Monday night game at New York Jets. Jets are middle of the road for how well they play against running backs, but I don't see Gore necessarily going off. He'll probably be right in that 10 to 13 point range. Chris is countering with Jonathan Stewart. Not a great matchup going up against Seattle. Carolina's probably going to play from behind, which means that they're probably not going to run the ball. Poor Chris this week. Poor Chris this year. Just not great matchups this week at all. Tight end. Even though these two are really, really close as far as what they've averaged over the past 4 weeks, Eifert has a pretty significant advantage for the projections. Cincinnati, without A.J. Green, they're going to have to rely on Eifert. Without Gio, they're going to have to rely on Eifert a little bit more this week. So I'm going to give a pretty significant advantage to DDP in this matchup. For the flex, already talked about Spencer Ware. I think he's over-projected at his 15.63 points. 8 to 10 points is my guess for him this week. I would play Lance Kendricks. Cameron Meredith does have a good matchup. Chicago is going up against San Francisco. 4 for wide receivers, but then you see this 1-star rating here. Looking on down the line, yeah, Fedorowicz. Travis Benjamin has been garbage lately. I just don't know who else he could even contemplate putting in there. So maybe he does roll out Meredith. Hopes to get lucky. Chicago will probably score points against San Francisco. And maybe he gets lucky with Meredith. Jordan Matthews, Philadelphia's offense is stalled. He's not scoring points. As mentioned previously, I would put in Kenneth Dixon over Martellus. And I think, yeah, I'm definitely giving the advantage to RIO in the flex spot. And kickers, they're stupid. I won't say that we should abolish them because we voted on that twice. Fun fact, Matt Bryant and Brandon McManus, they've both had a bye in the past 4 weeks, and they've both averaged exactly 13.33 points. So no real insight or analysis needed there. So this should be a close matchup. Projections say it should be really, really close. If we go just by what they've averaged over the past 4 weeks, their ideal lineup should be really, really close. My opinion here is biased. I am rooting for Chris. Well, I'm not rooting for Chris. I'm rooting against Bork. I want him to lose. I want his pick to be in the lottery. Otherwise, I wasted a crap load of cap room for this year for a non-lottery pick. I'm still in line. Still very likely that I'm going to get all 6 lottery picks. We have to see the Rob versus Richard preview yet. I don't want to rely on Rob needing to beat Richard. I really want Chris to just go ahead and take care of business against Bork. And so I'm going to give Chris the ever so slight edge. I'm going to say it's going to be, maybe these numbers are a little high. Let's say 135 to 130. I'll take Rio Grande over DDP. Good luck to everyone except for Bork and Ivan. Peace.